Hi everybody, welcome. I'm glad that you're here in the event that you don't know who I am, which is quite possible. There was a little show for 15 years called Gonzalo's Place. We ran for 14 years in 200 countries. We gave away scholarships. We interviewed a whole bunch of people. It was a life changer for me. And this is our 13th NAMM. We're NAMM's partner, and they partner now with my show called Parlor. And I try to bring panels to you that you may not find other places. And I think we did it again this time. So first of all, before we start, let me give you a couple of organizations you should know about. One is the Kosine Sessions that you see right there. Kosine is a monstrous producer, a teacher, a technician, a player. His axe is right over there, and he's threatening to pull it out and start playing it. We're going to learn a lot from him. The other people who brought this to you is an incredible organization called Gender Amplified. The CEO is sitting right in the middle, looking very demure and black. Her name is Ebonie Smith. Absolutely brilliant, and used to run Atlantic's recording operations on the East Coast, and has mixed everything from Hamilton to country to Cardi but she's also an artist. And before I introduce the next guest, let me tell you what we're doing. How many people here have heard of artist development? How many people know what it is? Okay, we're going to uncover some of the mysteries because it may not be what you think it is. It's easy to say it, it's very hard to do, correct? So, we're going to use a schematic of a house. And when you build a house, you need a foundation, right? You need a good foundation. But you also need good materials. So if you have a good foundation and you have wood that's got worms and stuff in it, you're not going to have a very sturdy house. So what we try to do is show you how to build something that's sturdy. So the craftspeople to build this house are Kosine and Ebonie, but you need materials, you need marble, you need travertine, you need good stuff. That means the artist has to be special, and we brought a special one to you today. Her name is Crystal Tamar. She is a bad lady on a number of fronts. So let's start building a house so you'll get to know these people. The first thing about artist development that we noticed, and there are a ton of people in this room who've done artist development. There's CEO of labels here, there's other people here, in fact, let me break down the room for myself. How many producers are here? How many artists are here? Any business people, managers? Okay, good. You're sitting amongst hit makers, 1,500 or nothing hit makers are sitting in the back, incredible. My boy, absolutely. Okay, so we start with artist development. You ever been in a bad relationship where you picked the wrong person? Yes. Thank you, haven't we all? So the first thing I do in artist development is find a match, right? As an artist, you have to find somebody who believes in you, and as an artist development person, Kosine, what do you look for when you decide you're going to give your talent and time to an artist?
It's all about efficiency, right? And people that are consistent and everything that's not talent. You know what I'm saying? So many people think it's all about the talent, and who cares about your talent? You know what I'm saying? Like talent just, that's just who we are as a people. We're talented. But are you gonna show up on time? Are you gonna work hard? Are you a forever student? Do you love learning? Can you find comfort in being uncomfortable? So there's a lot of things that have nothing to do with the gift or the talent that I'm looking for. First thing I do when I'm about to work with an artist is give them a 2-hour song lecture and I ask them to take notes. And when they come back to the studio, depending on how their notes look, I can easily tell how serious they are about the craft, because I'm a craftsman. If you're not serious about the crafts, this isn't the place, you know?
Ebonie, what about you, your perspective?
I would definitely say all the same things the coach just mentioned, but also I think when it comes to consistency, there's discipline involved in it. And some attention to detail when it comes to discipline, wanting to find someone who is willing to put the time in and day out, etching away at their sound, right? And who really believes that they have a very specific sound that they're willing to track down. I think great artists don't tend to have the same type of option anxiety that a lot of us do. We want to kind of bounce around and do a lot of different things. They have a very specific, a great artist is a very specific thing that they're trying to do. And sometimes it can drive you crazy a little bit trying to help them chase it down, but they're definitive.
Yeah.
And another thing that I really appreciate is competitiveness. Because I come from the world of sports, this is where I started. And I think of in terms of everything is sports. Music is not sports, very different worlds. But at the same time, there has to be some sort of competitive drive that makes a person want to win, that makes them want to be at the top of their game, whatever that means to them. That may not necessarily mean being number one on the charts if that's not their vision.
Right.
But it may be number one in terms of ticket sales, and maybe number one, you want to be working with people that want to be in an exclusive class, because they're going to elevate everything that they touch and everyone who they bring with them.
Now, the reason why I said to you guys, it may be different than what you need, you're hearing dynamics that you might not necessarily hear in the music business. Competitiveness, sports, discipline, things that are really more sports related in some ways. So Crystal, as an artist, when you hear producers who want to work with you, who have that kind of ecosystem, that they want to have that kind of exactitude, does that make you feel better about your choices?
Oh, I love it. I'm a person of structure, and when I actually started doing music full time, it was a little weird for me. So I was like, oh, we all over the place, okay? And so when you actually come across somebody that has structure and actually appreciates people being on time, people taking notes, that's my lane right there, because I personally don't know how to operate without that. And to be honest with you, a lot of my fellow artists, that's not their thing, and that's okay. Chaos is kind of good for some creatives, but I need structure. So if I hear a producer tell me that's what they want from me, I'm like, I'm already there, Jack. Like, let's do it.
Right. All right, so we've got this first floor being built. We got foundations, we got materials, we got artistry, artisans doing the work. Now we're putting it together. And the second way we'll go up to the second floor. Because the thing about artist development is that you never stop doing it. If you care a lot about it, you're never going to stop doing it. You're not going to develop an artist and then stop, and then they don't need more developing. They do. The best artists know that. The biggest artists of the world continue to be developed. They continue to try things. Okay, Beyonce, let's do a country record. You don't have to. You're a billionaire. Why do that? Because you're pushing your envelope. You want to see how far you can go. Now, you're working together, you're doing creative stuff. There's a lot that goes into that. Songwriting, writing together, disagreeing, seeing emotional hurdles. Crystal, how do you process that with somebody like Kosine?
With Kosine, our chemistry was immediate. First off, he's goofy. He's goofy. And I need a little bit of that humor in the environment. But one thing that really made a big difference for me was Kosine asked me my story. That don't happen. I'm used to going into rooms and they tell you exactly what they want from you. You're like, I'm thinking of doing this, so let's go in there and do it. He wanted to hear my story. He wanted to hear, my husband was with me, he wanted to hear it from his perspective as well as mine, and that was the starting point. I was like, oh, this is about to be good. Because he was cracking up at the story, and the song just started to write itself. that made the biggest difference for me. From there, everything else was easy.
One of the things that, just my perspective, that I like about a guy like Kosine and Ebonie is that they don't think about their stats. When you meet Kosine, you're meeting a dude. You're not going to know that he did TED Talks, and you're not going to know that he was a teacher at Columbia University when he was in his 20s. And you're not going to know about what he did with Apple Music. He's just going to say, man, how are you? Let's make some music. And I've sat in the studio with Crystal where he worked on a bridge that didn't work, then pulled out his axe, played on it, then did some keyboard shit on it. And I was just sitting there going, are you gonna go get lunch too? And no, I'm Kosine, I'm a hit maker, just really giving into the art and making sure the artist was fulfilled. Because that fulfills you as a producer, correct?
Of course, man, of course. You know, I mean, let's be real, right? There's nobody that can go to the studio and make a #1 hit every day, okay? Think about your favorite. Nobody's going every single day, right? So, you know, every time you get that opportunity to make this life-changing song, you know what I mean? We playing the lottery, you know, and, you know, I'm trying to prove myself, even though, you know, forget what's in the past, right? The music industry is one of those, what have you done for me lately? Like, dang, when the last time you had and I had those seasons of life, like, oh my God, am I falling off? Oh my God, I'm falling off. I didn't win an ASCAP award this year, Jesus Christ. You know, I didn't win the Grammy, Jesus. And then you start getting back into the passion and the love and the craftsmanship. Like, recently I found my high school band teacher, Mr. Gorey, he in Mississippi. And I'm just like, Mr. Gorey, you know what I'm saying? Like, did you know that what she was turning me in? Did you know billions of streams? And did you know what was about to happen? And so you have this reputation that kind of precedes you, but you still have to deliver. And the thing about music is, whatever you can't do, you gotta depend on somebody to help you. And there's nothing wrong with collaboration, but if there's nobody around, can you handle it? You know, so with Crystal's project, I'm in there with no pillowcase. No Dolo for Sholo, you know, I'm from Chicago. Dolo for Sholo. You know what I'm saying? And so that's pressure. You know, the last thing I want is for her and her husband to get in the car and start talking crazy like, man, you know, Kosine, he didn't really like that, man. That beat was a little light in the ass, man. He could, you know, and so I'm looking for her to feel ownership. Even though I'm songwriting for her, I still want her to feel ownership. So it's important to ask the right questions, you know?
Ebonie, you did a passion project from your perspective recently. Why don't you describe what it is? Because it's a super elevated, you didn't have to take on this project, but it spoke to your heart, I think.
Yeah, so, and thank you for giving me space to talk about that. And in 2022, when Takeoff was murdered from the Migos, I was on the phone with a friend and we were complaining. Everybody was shocked and mourning. And we were just, why is hip hop like this? And the labels are at fault. And why are labels incentivizing black men to create issues for themselves through the criminalizing of their lyrics? And, why are the lyrics this way? And, I was blaming the artists, the labels. And then I was like, well, what are you gonna do? Do a think piece? Like, that's not gonna help. Are you going to make music? That might help. So a way of processing, and Migos is one of my favorite artists, so one of my ways for processing that was to propose a project to the label that I was with at the time that re-envisioned language, especially from black artists. And I had an idea of dedicating a record to Takeoff. And I found a poem by Phyllis Wheatley called The Death of a Young Gentleman. This poem is from the 1700s. And she's talking about violence, specifically talking about, black men and violence. And that poem spoke to me and it gave me an idea. Why don't I do a poetry album to speak about what I'm going through and the angst that I'm feeling and confusion? Because at that time, we'd seen so many black men die in hip hop. And I don't understand why it kept recurring. It was P.W. Rock and Nipsey, and it's just dying the same way. The same type of violence. And so that poem spoke to me. So I was like, maybe I'll do a poetry album that has the poems of black women recited by black women of distinction. So I thought about Angela Davis, and at the time, there were so many things going on in the Middle East, so I reached out to a colleague at the Recording Academy, and I said, can we get Angela Davis? She'd done something for me before, and so I felt like this was an opportunity to reach back out again, and she said yes. And she chose to do a poem by June Jordan, and that kind of kicked it all off. And so after that, we had Representative Maxine Waters joined, and Roberta Flack, her last recording before she passed, she came on, and Valerie Simpson, Flying the Boss, and Tanking the Bangers, and all these incredible artists. And it was multi-generational, and we put this poetry album together, and it was something that I felt was necessary. And I don't know that it was a hit per se, but it was an opportunity for me to speak to the angst that I felt as a black woman, feeling very tied to hip hop, having a very intimate relationship with hip hop, but also being very real and very honest about some of the damage that it has done within our society, for all the good that it's given, all the times we've been able to turn up and collectivize. There has also been this issue in terms of the black male image and how hip hop has helped to distort it. And so this project was a reclamation. It was dedicated to Takeoff. It came out last 2 years ago. It was called On Imagination. It came out on Juneteenth a couple years ago. And so it was, it was something that I felt it was necessary to take on.
And the point for me of that recitation is in each one of you are relationships you have, passions that you have, things that you may want to do and speak to, and those passions help develop who you are as an artist and who you are as a producer, which then informs how you are as develop somebody else who has passions. If passion is not part of what you're doing, then this ain't gonna work, correct? If passion is not in what you do, I tell people all the time, and we're in a really interesting time with AI and all that kind of stuff, but I will tell you to this day, computers can't cry. Computers can't cry. So if you do something that touches you and you feel an emotional well up, you're getting close. I had the pleasure of, during Pizarro's Place, interviewing the audio guy who just won an Oscar for Mad Max 2. And I said, how do you know when you're at your creative nadir, when you're there? And he said, I took acting lessons, and I noticed that when I start to cry, the work never gets better. So I go as far as I can until I start crying, and then I'm there. So if I'm outside and I see you crying, I know there's a hit that's about to come down the road, so I'm there for that. By the way, Crystal and Ebonie, where can people find the music? Where can they find your album?
My album, it can be found at eboniesmith.com, EBONIE Smith.com.
Crystal, how about your stuff?
All streaming platforms. You can also go to my website, crystaltamar.com, but all streaming platforms.
All right, so we're heading down the path, and one of the things I want to remind you is that the music business is a caste system. There are people who just think about major labels, and that's their goal, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not all there is. The independent artist is now got its own ways and means and models and things you can do your own thing by, and it's very good for you to know as much as you can about both, because you just don't know what you're going to be called upon. Kosine, do you find a difference when a major label calls you and an independent artist calls you?
Difference? What you mean by that? Unpack that for me.
I know that your job they're calling you to do is produce. Is the artist perspective different when you get hold of them? One that's signed to a major, one that's independent? Because sometimes independent artists have to put up their own money and put up their own thing. And I find that sometimes the independent artists have this clarity about what they want to do. Is that fair?
I mean, I feel like with music, it's always like case by case, right? Like I've seen that in the independent space, but then I've seen artists that are kind of, disengaged a little bit. And, same thing, I think, major label stuff, it gets pretty intense. I can say working on Anaconda for Nicki Minaj, she had her video director in the studio while I was finishing the track. And I was just like, wow, this song is about to be huge, and it's gonna be huge immediately, because never have I ever seen a video director. He just was to the side with his feet up and his eyes closed, looking up. I'm like, he really thinking of some shit right now. You know what I'm saying? And I'm trying not to get distracted while I'm working on the track. But sure enough, you know what I'm saying? Anaconda, we won a Vanguard Award for MTV Vanguard Award for that video, and it's well over 1 billion views on YouTube. But that's that pressure, And there's a thing that we used to talk about when we first got to LA called Johnny on the Spot. See, a lot of people like to come to the studio with a pack of beats, and that's cool. Some artists like to work like that, but I am Bruce Lee in the studio. I am Walter. You know what I'm saying? And there's something different when they watch that track come alive out of silence. You walk in the studio, it's silence. You ask some questions. You really are intentional on figuring out what is the artist inspired by. I got an opportunity to work with the late LaShawn Daniels, who wrote "You Rock My World" for Michael Jackson about his wife. But when we got in the studio, it's like, Sean, how did you and Rodney Jerk, like, why are you, bro? And he's like, I study country. One of my favorite songs is "Last Call" by Leanne Womack. Run to the computer, "Last Call," Leanne Womack, pull it up, study the lyrics. And it's one of the most beautifully written country songs ever. So it's about understanding what are the greats and what are artists inspired by. Because if you know what they're inspired by, now you can start creating and using that, as a foundation for your creation.
For whatever it's worth, I learned when I started this journey how important Nashville and the ethos of country artists and country music can be to all music. If you have a chance to get down there or meet somebody or spend some time, do it. The songwriting is superb, the musicianship is superb. It's one of the few cities I go to that truly loves music and honors it. You get off your plane in the airport, they're playing live music. It's really amazing. In your project with Crystal, how far are you away from completion? Are you getting close?
And we would be done if I was on top of my game a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? I literally knew I was gonna see her today and her husband. I was gonna try to show up with this mix, and I was sitting at my kitchen table just fighting through it. And I think I had some type of issues with logic. You know what I'm saying? But we're knocking on the door. But with Crystal, she gave me a reason to call Sauce. Sauce is Neo's guy, but he produced Just the Two of Us for Will Smith. He was in this group called Something for the People, but I learned vocal production and a lot of vocal mixing from Sauce. So a lot of times working with the artist, you know what super friend, alien friend to call to put the magic sparkle on it. So between us, working together, going back and forth, it's just been a great process. And also, there's no such thing as like a Nicki Minaj, Justin Bieber, Rihanna produced beat and an independent music beat. See, when you're working with fresh faces, it's really cool because a great song on a fresh face, introducing an artist to the music business, really hits at a high level. Doing a song on an already established big artist, it's cool, you get points for that for sure. But when you introduce to us a fresh face, that's how you become legend in this music business.
Ebony, I think Gender Amplified, the organization that you put together, it has a balance of making sure people get introduced and then processed properly, and they have mentors and people that they can go learn from. And because I always find that it is important for us to hear contributions from the female, from the distaff side of our business, because there's just something they bring to the party. And Gender Amplified is, how many members do you have now?
So we're not a member-based organization, but for the folks in the room, Gender Amplified is a nonprofit. I started in college. I just wanted some friends, really. I was like the only girl on campus that I knew making beats. I'm pretty sure there was nobody else. So it was a huge university. I mean, I went to one of the best schools in New York, and it was huge. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense that it's not like one other girl. Like, how is not one? You know, so I started going all over New York trying to find them, just on my own. And I came across an organization called Femix.com, and they were doing these all-female beat battles, DJ beat battles, down at SOBs in New York. And they had these women come through who were really established, and nobody really knew who they were. I mean, they were charting like that. DJ Coco Chanel come through, she was working on Saigon's music at the time. It was like, there's just all these women that were working all across New York City at various levels. Some were just getting started, some were bona fide, like, charting producers. And I was like, this is a whole ecosystem, you know, like production culture is already a subculture. It's a subculture in music. But women in production was a whole other subculture within a subculture. So I really liked that. I enjoyed the experiences that I had in the beat battles, and I ended up meeting the founder of that organization, and she was like, you have all these resources up at that big old college you go to, all that money. You need to figure out how to do some events up there. And she was like, and if you do them, I'll help you. She kept her word. And so we did the first Gender Amplified event where we were trying to find the girls that I knew must be on campus. And we ended up having all these women come from all over New York. So DJ Smith pulled up. It was great. I mean, this was ages ago, you know, Salt and Pepper. That was history to me. It was, you know, the kind of stuff that I grew up on. So having DJ Span come through as a woman representing the DJs, and for people who know hip hop, DJs were the first producers. So I looked at her as a producer, even though Herbie Herb was producing their music. You know, she was the stand-in on stage. She was making sure that stuff was really going on stage. So it was special to have her there, and it just kind of evolved from there. I wasn't trying to start a nonprofit. You know, it just seemed like the energy of those events that we were doing, the conference, then we did a festival, then we started doing camps. We still been doing camps ever since 2019, all over New York and in LA. So it just always felt right. And so in terms of your original question, which was, you know, we find artists that are at various stages of their careers, and they identify as women or gender non-conforming, non-binary, transgender, and we just make sure they know each other. That's really the genesis of it, bringing them together under one roof. Because it tends to be, in my experience, that folks of similar lived experience enjoy making music together. It's not science. Like the Beatles got together and made music because they were some boys from the UK who had a similar lived experience, you know, and it's gender amplified just as much as women coming together making things of similar lived experience.
All right, so we're building this house. Artist development is growing. We got our schematics. We know it's discipline. We know it's passion. We know that it is being fearless. It's also about community. It's about being part of, if you don't do your part to be part of the music community, it's irresponsible, don't you think? It's super important that you're part of the community. you're here, so I assume you care about the community. But tell your friends who aren't here, get your ass here. because you need to be. The other thing I want to tell you, there's a microphone right there. If you have a question, come up to it and I'll call on you. Don't want you. I thought you were coming through the mic. I was excited. Sure. You want to come to the mic, ask a question? Good. And we'll just.
First off, thank you so much for your wisdom. I'm taking notes like crazy. So I wanted to ask Kosine, you mentioned earlier that you need to ask the right questions. May I have some examples of what the right questions are?
Wonderful question. I often have artists make me a playlist. You know what I mean? And the reason why I super know that works is because one of my mentors from Chicago is No ID, and he won a Grammy with Jay-Z. And I was like, how did you talk to me about that process? And one thing that he talked about was challenging him, right? We know you got the hottest chick in the game wearing your chain, right? We know you're from Marcy Projects. What don't we know? What don't we know? And that's when he, talked about some of his issues with Beyonce. Nobody wins when the family feuds, and he also made No ID a playlist. And that playlist that he made him is what he used to sample. Half of the album, the samples that were on the album came from that playlist that he made him. So again, it all goes back to figuring out what the artist is inspired by.
And can I give you points for just taking such good notes? You are busy getting that stuff done. Good for you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Next up.
Peace and blessings, family. My name is Vincent Alaz Muhammad from Macon, Georgia, Mactown. Here representing the Otis Redding Center for the Arts. And I benefited a lot from the community here in LA as a 2023 graduate of 1500 Sound Academy. Also a VIP member of Kosine Sessions. And it's a lot, whether it be watching Pisado's place in the Parlor. There's so many different things that it's not a coincidence that I'm putting myself in these spaces. Because I've been poured into so much, my goal is to pour back into the youth back at home. So my question to you is, what should students be doing when they're in the ages between 12 to 18 to work to develop themselves as artists? What practical things could they be doing and practicing at that time?
Yeah,
I think the biggest thing is, for sure, the rudiments of music. Like, we don't want to get away from do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
Come on.
Just really the basics. And I know that stuff can be boring, and sometimes a lot of students don't want to do that, but the kids that do it and really spend the time understanding how to think about music and zeroing in on an instrument, they tend to do better and last longer in the business. Rance was here earlier for 1500 and nothing. I remember hearing him say that in an interview once. He was like, we've been able to survive, talking about the 1500 guys, we've been able to survive because we came from church and we knew how to play instruments. And speaking on church, I will say another thing is character development is the most important thing. That was something that I left out earlier. I come from church, so there's just some things I'm not about to do. I don't care how much money you give me. It doesn't matter if you go to church or don't, but I think a young person has to set their standards early. Know how far you're willing to go and how far you're not willing to go to get there. Because I think the road there is just as important as getting there. So where you're trying to go, how you get there, and that higher road sometimes is a longer road, but it would be worth it. So those two things I would say is really fixate on the music and then also on character development, knowing what your personal standards are, working on building integrity, kindness, joy, a sense of humility. All those things I think really do take a person a lot farther.
Crystal, you agree?
Yes, totally agree, especially all of it, Jack. All of it. And another thing that I found helpful is to ask yourself, what kind of artist am I to be? So am I going to be that awesome jazz vocalist that's going to be at the weekly jazz club in the city? Is that me? Because everybody is not a recording artist, you know, and everybody is not a performance artist. Am I meant to be the bad singer in the choir, you know, or the person leading? And so once you start to ask yourself those questions, you know, okay, so what do I need to work with? Okay, I'm going to be working with choir. I need to learn how to work with people a little bit more. If I'm going to be performing, I need to be in dance classes every week. I need to be developing these things. For me, it started really early. I was in one of those kind of Destiny's Child groups where my dad had me and my sisters in a singing group. And so stage presence came to us really early on, just doing little local gigs here and there. So I was really strong in that, but I needed more studio muscle. You know, I needed to know how to manage emotions in the studio. What if this song is not hitting as hard as the song yesterday? You know, so it's up to me to commit to that and still make it what it needs to be. So a good thing is just asking yourself, what kind of artist am I going to be? And then taking backward steps to say, okay, now what makes that kind of artist who they are? If that makes sense.
And before we ask the next question, can I ask you to give a round of applause to the guy in the jacket and the title there? That's Zach Phillips. Zach, wave your hand. Zach is with NAMM, and I've known him for a long time, and his passion about putting this stuff on, the work they put on for a year, I have a chance to see it. I periodically go down to Carlsbad, and you have no idea the heavy lift that this is. So thank you, Zach. Just, I don't think you get recognized. Okay, next question. What's that?
Pleasure is all ours.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Hi, thank you so much for being here today. I'm Jasmine, I'm local, so
Hi,
from
Jasmine.
Anaheim. I actually work for the city, so this is my first year going to NAMM. My husband is in the back with his best friend, and we have a little studio at home.
Nice.
And my question really is, how do we connect with like music people? I think for me, this was our first step coming to NAMM. I'm like, hey, Merry Christmas, we're going to NAMM this year. And that to me was like a big step, like networking. Like during lunch, I was just like, hey, who are you? Just kind of like, they call me their manager. But to me, the main question is like, how do they get exposure? Because like, for example, his best friend is a really good rapper. We go to like local rap shows, and like, he even does like online Discord like rap competitions. He was so good that like they didn't invite him back because he won. Like, you know, it was just crazy. So like, he's so good that he like, they're not invited anymore. Where it's like, we're trying to have a community. Like,
Sure.
where can we go?
Well, do you want to answer? This is what I would tell you. First of all, you're at the right place. Secondly, take away any pretense. Go up to the people that you need to go up to, ask a question, take a picture. The ones who are receptive, remember I talked about building a community, they're going to find time for you. The ones who don't have time for you don't need to be in your life. One of the things I do with my panel specifically is I ask them to not just be what I call monkeys behind the glass, meaning they do the panel, and then afterwards you guys dismiss and they go off and you never talk to them. I ask them, sit around, take a picture, say hello, answer a question, because we all sat up there at one point in time, and we had to come up to people who put us on. And the people who put me on, I just was kind of relentless about. And I wasn't an asshole, but I was firm because I wanted this. And so I tell people all the time, go up, have the question, and engage it. Because if your boyfriend, it's your husband?
Husband, yeah.
Congratulations, brother.
Thank you.
You're married up.
Thank you.
But if your husband cares and you care, then you're going to find people who care. Those who don't care, keep it pushing.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'll also add, this is why I built Kosine Sessions, right? PJ and I, we here with Kosine Session t-shirts on, because that's the community. The platform is school.com, and it's a monthly subscription, and I basically do this every Tuesday with the members. Rosa even flew in town, she's one of our members. Vincent is a VIP member of Kosine Sessions, and you know, whenever I come and do stuff like this, you know, I get everybody hands their card, and it's like all this. How do I stay in contact? And it's like, you know what? Kosine Sessions. We meet every Tuesday, and it's like a school mixed with Instagram. So it's a community where you can DM everybody that's in there. There's a wall where you can post inspiration and stuff you learn from. You can post your music. People jump on, comment on your music, you know, and then of course we meet every week and we're listening to music, but I'm also teaching. The curriculum is my life. You know what I'm saying? So recently I did the Blue Note in Los Angeles with Robert Glasper and Ari Lennox. And I don't have an agent. I don't have a manager. I've been managing Kosine for like the last decade with my partner PJ. Now PJ came in the fold from Hidden Beach as a marketing genius and guru. And I got that show because I saw Robert Glasper talk about it on Instagram, and I DM'd him and I texted him. And so we live by the philosophy, you have not.
Because you asked not.
Because you asked not. You know, I've been coding like crazy. I had a bunch of AI agents go in my phone book and organize my contacts. The minute you organize all your contacts, you turn yourself into a consulting company. So I was able to acquire a music festival because the agents booked the festival out of my phone book. So there's so much that's right under our noses that a lot of what artist development is now is really systems. Having the right systems in place so that you can do this forever.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. After you, sir.
Hi, I have an independent record label, and my rock band, we have physical sales in 23 countries, streaming in 57 countries. I have a solo, my solo career also, similar numbers. So my question is, as the artist, and I think Crystal already partially answered this question, but as the person who's doing our own artist development for ourselves, you know, if you could give us any tips or insight, that'd be great.
Go ahead.
Being an indie artist, you have to be your own record label. We all know that these days. One thing I found is once I put the business things in place, the LLC, I started to build capital. And I didn't want to go in stupid about the fact that I would need capital in order to reach the people that I aspire to work with. So build your capital, build your marketing plan, type it up. One thing I really liked about working with Kosine is he started showing me spreadsheets that he has top songs this week, you know, and I was like, send me it, like ASAP. Put those systems in place. And I think the rest becomes much easier because once you have those things in place and you're starting to go to these events and you're meeting people, you can start to decide, okay, where am I gonna put that? Okay, I'm gonna put this capital aside for that person. That makes sense. So, yeah, that and socials. Ooh, y'all, that was something that it's still a very difficult thing for me because I am an introvert at heart. And I'm learning these days that opening my mouth is going a long way. Talking to a bunch of strangers who don't know me and telling them that I'm that girl goes so far. Your mouth will take you places. Just basically what Herb said a few minutes ago, you know, go up to those people. Your mouth will take you a long way. And reminding yourself every day that I am my own label will have you thinking differently about what you need to do. Okay, not only do I need to get up and start playing some scales, Ebonie put me onto that, but I need to see what the LLC is doing, see what my funding is doing, see what my marketing is doing, and hitting those things up every day so that when you're ready to pop off, it's all in place.
And she's very good at it. Her last video had 13,000 some odd views. She's incredible when I interview her. So you want to start with an artist like her. She is very, very, very good. And I say that not facetiously because when you have somebody who helps themselves, it helps you. You know, there's some artists who just go, okay, you do all the work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. This is a community, this is a joint effort. We have to do it together. Now the good news is in about 6 or 7 minutes, you'll have a chance to come up and at least take a picture with our guys and so on and so forth. But let's get a couple more questions before that happens. That's a serious beard, brother.
I appreciate it. All right, what's good, y'all? Governor Jackass. I'm a lyrical conscious rapper from Vegas. Drove out for the conference. Super appreciate all the gems so far. Love hearing you guys speak. Actually, I saw Rance at a conference last year asking the same questions, so I'm gonna ask y'all. I definitely loved everything you guys talked about in terms of like what separates artists, in terms of like efficiency, consistency, discipline. But on like a wider scale, I think all that comes from like meeting the artist. So what are those things that stand out that make that connection for you to then meet the artist? Whether that's online, whether that's through the music, whether that's through the public image, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'll take this one. Thank you for your question. And thank you for traveling. I think that for me, face-to-face still matters a great deal. I think artists that can perform make the biggest difference. I'm always sold when I go to a show. And I like to make the connection at a show because the whole team is there. I'm able to see who is involved with this artist. The artist team is the most important thing. And I don't know if you have a team, but I think it's a really great way to build an ecosystem too, because if you're doing shows and you're going out trying to meet people in real life, having a team to help you with that is gonna matter. And when we say team, our minds automatically go to a manager, a publicist, an agent, a booking agent. I'm not talking about any of that, especially in the beginning. Find the homies, mama, daddy, cousin, and deputize them. Know what those fancy roles need to be, the booking agent, the PR person, and just assign them to a relative or a friend, because those people are gonna matter. It's not, there's no such thing as self-made, you know, I don't think there's any such thing as individualism either. I think that's a social construct. We are all helping each other get there. So who you're traveling with, it may be your producer, your engineer, whoever it is. I like to meet artists in their element on stage because typically I'll get to see all those people. I'll get to meet the manager, I'll get to meet mama, daddy, cousin, I'll get to make a connection with the booking agent, just to see if it's a total vibe. Because like whoever that artist is around determines what they're about, at least at that time. Who they are, how they represent themselves, and what their values are. So like that really matters a great deal. So I think in real life matters, and that's not to discourage social media because that cannot be ignored. But I would say fold the social into the live.
And that's one of the last floors in strategies for artist development is live. If you ain't shit live, you got troubles. You got troubles. So don't go up there till you're ready. I know many artists who had the music and had their team and had great sounds and all that kind of stuff, and got up. I would mention one that I got signed, but I shouldn't. He's on a television show as a judge. His initials are RT. His first name is the same as a bird, Robin. At any rate, Brian McKnight and I signed Robin Thicke a long time ago. And Robin really liked Brian. And I said, Robin, if you don't go out on the road, you're just gonna be a background singer, because you gotta go learn your chops. And really what happened, and I respect him for this, he kept at the craft. He found his outlet, which was television, but he never turned into the performing artist that would go on tour, because he never sort of gave into that. Now, he had opportunity that got in the way, so I give him a pass. But at the end of the day, whatever you're doing, if you're a label, whatever, your artist has got to be able to perform, because that's where you're gonna see honesty. Cool?
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thanks. Next question. By the way, tomorrow at 1 p.m. in Building B, we're gonna have a great panel, Ask the Experts. I'm gonna have 2 or 3 experts up there that are incredible. So if you get a chance to come, please do. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Mel. I'm a singer-songwriter from San Bernardino, California. I'm really grateful for all of the information that you've shared. My question was inspired by your album, Ebonie, that you were talking about on imagination. It's really interesting to me that you had Angela Davis on there, and I was just curious, coming to NAMM, we talk a lot about like AI in the future and how everything seems like really great. At the same time, we don't really talk about where we are right now. as a country, like what's happening like today, you know, like in Minneapolis and things like that. And so as people who work in artist development, I'm sure as artists yourselves, people who work in community, I'm just curious if that conversation has a place or how you navigate that and what you think might keep people from bringing that up.
I'm going to do a quick answer and then we'll other. There's a CEO in here of a record company. I won't point him out and embarrass him. And earlier he told me that Kosine is a beast, because he is. And what part of what I love about his label is that he encouraged his artists to be conscientious. And there's a bunch of stuff in his catalog of really important people, political people, artists, Prince, Barack Obama, that are talking about what's happening today. I personally believe that artists should be talking about what's going on in the country. When I came up, artists often were the social bellwethers. You know, we have war, we have this, we have craziness going on, we have ICE, we have... So no matter what your politics are, don't be afraid to step in and bring your artistic voice to what's going on today. You may make the next peace anthem that everybody gets behind and becomes a global thing. I think it's important for you to have that freedom. Do you agree?
Yes, that's why Marvin is Marvin and Harry Belafonte is Harry Belafonte, because they open their mouth.
And I would say to that point, and they both sacrificed. Harry Belafonte, for example, stopped working. He stepped away from films for a while. And the question I would pose to you is, are you willing to sacrifice? And all artists, period, have to answer that question. But this road of being a bit of an emissary, commenting on the times, it always comes with risk. I mean, we look at Dave Chappelle right now, we're so, you know, we just love how amazing he makes us laugh, and he's one of the highest paid. This man didn't work for like a decade because he chose to protest through his own career. And I'll be honest on this stage, I think my last album got me fired. But I said before, either it's gonna get me promoted or it's gonna get me fired, and I'm willing to take that risk. Right? The Angela Davis record, Angela Davis record had a Palestine reference on it. And everybody was like, bitch, don't you put that. But she was so adamant because activists are artists. And her good friend was June Jordan. And when she agreed to do the project, I had a Phyllis Wheatley poem ready for her. And she looked me dead in my face and said, I'm not doing it. I'm doing this poem about June Jordan because it reflects the times. And I won't be silenced, nor will she be silenced in death, because the poem, which the lyrics of the poem, I say lyrics, were everything that was happening in 2023, but it was written in the mid-'80s. So what does it tell you? So I would say it's my responsibility, because I know who the God is that I pray to. But you have to determine that for yourself. Are you willing to make that sacrifice? And if you are willing, sacrifice it all. Don't be half about it. You know, go ahead and like bet the house. You know, and come what may. And you might get hired, you might get fired. But if you ask yourself that very real question, and your answer is like even like somewhat of a maybe, I don't really know, then just make the pop songs. And that's a lane, and that's fine, and that's not a judgment. But just make the pop songs. That's fine.
The business is about going for it. Go for it. You only live once. Go for it. If you got this gift, go for it. Like, you don't want to go, God, if I had just, I was thinking about that, why didn't I can tell you, for those of you who know who saw this place, I didn't know when I came up with the idea for my partner, I thought a stereo bus, for those people who know what a stereo bus is, was a bus that had 2 speakers on it. I had not a clue. And for about a year, I just looked back and forth like in a tennis match. I don't know what these people are talking about. And 14 years later, I was able to sell it and turn it into something. I just went for it and found a place. I didn't want to, and it changed my life because I just went for it. What I would love to do is have you have a chance to see these guys, take a picture with them, do whatever. Is that okay with you guys? You sure, Kosine? You good, Crystal? Crystal, I think you're over there writing songs. You got songs in your head that...
It is a lot.
Because I know that's going to come out and great stuff. If you would join me in welcoming and presenting to you Ebonie Smith from Gender Amplified. Give her a hand. Kosine from Kosine Sessions. And the incredible Crystal Tamar, artist you're going to hear about her soon. I'm Herb Charlie. Thanks, guys. We'll see you shortly. Come see it.
Lay a little closer. Lay a little closer. And just take my hand. We will be okay.